Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of News Buzz. Today, we will be discussing the Tokyo Olympics issues with COVID-19, the current situation with Myanmar and solar park and construction in Dubai, and the documentary Seaspiracy that has recently been released on Netflix. So the Tokyo Olympics was supposed to take place from the 24th of July to 9th of August in 2020. This is the 32nd Summer Olympics. However, due to the COVID-19, the Olympics got postponed, and now it is rescheduled and will start from 23rd of July to 8th of August in 2021. About 11,000 athletes more than 200 nations are expected to participate in the Tokyo Olympics. Currently, the Tokyo Olympics is under many controversial issues, and one of the biggest issues is the matter of vaccination. There was a rumor that the Japanese government is considering a policy that prioritizes the Olympic athletes in vaccinating. The public was furious about this news, and the criticism was and the okay. The public was furious, and the criticism was mounting. The government denied the rumor and dismissing the reports that said it was considering the option. The major reason why this rumor provoked outrage in the public is because among the major economic countries, Japan is far beyond in vaccination. Only one vaccine is approved and approximately 1 million people have received a first dose since February, which is less than 1% of the total population, and the new cases of COVID-19 are still rising. Japan's first vaccination targets are medical workers, the elderly, and basic patients. Vaccination for elder people just started on the 12th of April, and according to government officials, quoted by Kyodo newspaper, however, the government has begun looking into the possibility of making sure its Olympic and Paralympic athletes have had both shots by the end of June, so they have enough time to recover by the 23rd July opening of the Games. To this news, the citizens are now opposing to the Tokyo Olympics, and they want it to be cancelled or postponed again. One of the citizens argued that given that we have no idea if even all the elderly will have received their vaccines by mid-June, is it possible to have all the athletes have theirs? So according to the Kyodo News, on the 12th, only 24.5% of the respondents said that the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics should be held this summer, while 39.2% argued canceling the Olympics and 32.8% argued postponing the Olympics again.
What do you think will be the outcome of this entire situation?
Well, the main purpose of the Olympics is to contribute to world peace. However, with the COVID situation right now, there are countries that are opposing to the Tokyo Olympics, and some even announced that they will not participate in this Olympic. In my opinion, this is causing some kind of a conflict between the nations right now instead of creating the peace. And also, if the Tokyo Olympics are held, I think the number of new cases of coronavirus will increase tremendously because many people will be gathered to see the Olympic.
Do you know if there will be any major financial impacts if the Olympics were to be postponed again?
In 2020, the Olympics were postponed, and that did cause financial impacts on Japan. Normally, when the Olympics or any other big competitions are held, the games raise the economic activity by triggering construction in the years leading up to the event and by boosting inbound tourism and associated consumption at the time the games take place. Well, obviously, Japan was looking forward to an economic increase in 2020, but because the games were postponed, they did not have an increase. And I think if they postpone again, I guess there will be more financial drawbacks to Japan.
Moving on to the next topic. So over the last few years, the UAE has taken steps to bid farewell to the last barrel of oil and achieve a balance between the development and maintaining a clean, healthy, and safe environment. So the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Solar Park is the largest single-site solar park in the world based on the Independent Power Producer, IPP model. It has a planned production capacity of 5,000 megawatts by 2030, with investments tallying 50 billion dirhams. When completed, it will save over 6.5 million tons of carbon emissions annually. The fourth phase uses the IPP model with investments up to 15.78 billion dirhams. Altair also reviewed the work progress at the visitor center of the fourth phase of the solar park. This is the largest concentrated solar power project globally and features the world's tallest solar power tower at 262.44 meters. So the progress in the solar tower is around 87% complete, with 100 million safe working hours without injuries. So the concrete part of the solar tower is now complete at a height of 222 meters, and the molten salt receiver was built and assembled on top of the world's highest solar tower in a remarkable construction process in June 2020. The pallets and tubes that transfer the molten salt inside the solar tower have also been completed. On its completion, the project will have the largest thermal storage capacity in the world of 15 hours, allowing the energy availability round the clock. The fourth phase will provide clean energies for around 320,000 residents. This project covers 44 square kilometers and has broken many world records, including the lowest levelized cost of electricity of USD 73 cents per kilowatt hours for the 700 megawatts and 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour for the 250 megawatt photovoltaic solar panels.
Okay. Oh, well, I think that's really cool. Can you explain briefly about the independent power producer model, the IPP model, for the ones that don't know about this topic?
Yeah, so the IPP models are privately owned power plants and operate outside of the traditional utility grid owned, maintained, and regulated by the public entity.
Okay. And do you think the project will be successful with its intended outcomes?
Well, I'm not sure because in 2017, the total consumption of electricity in the Emirate region of Dubai in the UAE was 40,153 gigawatts per hour. However, the solar park has a planned total capacity of 5,000 megawatts by 2030, which is not enough for the total population. However, it is said that this is so far is enough clean energy to provide around 320,000 residents. So hopefully that is enough for that amount of people. On the other hand, it will help reduce the country's total carbon emissions by 6.5 million tons annually.
Moving on to the next news. There has been mass protests in Myanmar since the military seized control on the 1st of February. Many people may not know where Myanmar is, so Myanmar is also known as Burma, and it is in Southeast Asia. It gained independence from Britain in 1948. Then the country was ruled by the armed force from 1962 until 2011. Now the citizens are protesting because the military forces are back in charge and have declared a year-long state of emergency. Although the NLD party won the general election by a landslide, the military seized control on the 1st of February after the election. The armed forces claimed the widespread fraud of the election, backing the opposition who were demanding a rerun of the votes. However, the Election Commission stated that there is no evidence to support these claims, so it was denied. Then the military forces raised the coup. The citizens started to protest over the coup, and it is the largest since the so-called Saffron Revolution in 2007. The protesters are diverse in jobs and ages, and the military has imposed restrictions, including curfews and limits to gatherings, and they used water cannons, rubber bullets, and real bullets too towards the protesters to disperse them and stand against the protest. The 27th of March was the deadliest day since the coup, where more than 100 people were killed by the army. The bloodshed on the street is getting larger due to the soldiers and police shooting the dead protesters, bystanders, and even the children. Since the first protest, at least 600 civilians have been killed by security forces, and among them, 46 children have been killed since the coup. Even though the protesters know that going to the protest is risking their own lives, they're not giving up their protest. And this is because they think that the current government, taken by the army by force, is not fair, and the country ruled by them will be worse than dying during the protest.
So, do you think that they will be able to find a potential peaceful solution in the future?
I mean, I hope they do find a peaceful solution in the future, but now it seems that it is hard to find a peaceful outcome soon because the army has taken the lives of many protesters, and they even threatened the citizens that if they come out to the protest, the soldiers will shoot the protesters with real bullets, and they actually did die. And this kind of tells that the army forces are not caring about the citizen's life. Why do you think the military forces are doing this?
So, in my opinion, I think that while the military has previously committed to transition Myanmar to a democracy, it has never truly relinquished power, retaining authority in the parliament with veto rights and a granted number of seats. Suu and her National League of Democracy Party in the later months of their first term moved to give more authority to the civilian government, and the military simply were not buying. By following through on a coup, the military is sending a clear signal that it has no plans to be marginalized in the government and has control for decades. So for the next topic, we'll be talking about the misleading information given in Seaspiracy, which is a recently released documentary on Netflix. So this film includes all the damaging evidence and dramatic footage required to make the important point that the industrial fishing is throughout the world a too often out of control and sometimes a criminal enterprise that needs to be reined in and regulated. In this, it reinforces and shares with the wide audience a knowledge that is widespread in the ocean conservation community, but not in the public at large. However, overall, Seaspiracy does more harm than good. It takes very serious issues of the devastating impact of the industrial fisheries on life in the ocean and then undermines it with an avalanche of falsehood. It also employs questionable interviewing techniques and uses anti-Asian tropes and blames the ocean conservation community, for example, the very NGOs trying to fix things, rather than the industrial companies actually causing the problem. Most importantly, it twists the narrative about the ocean destruction to support the idea that people, such as Netflix subscribers of the world, can save ocean biodiversity by turning vegan. In doing so, Seaspiracy undermines the tremendous potential value to persuade people to work together and push for change in policies and rules that will reign in the industry, which often breaks the law with impunity. But the main problem with Seaspiracy is that its makers want us to believe that eating fish is the central way we should go about fixing the problem that industrial fishing creates for the oceans. To opt for vegetarianism and veganism is a very respectable position and may become a potential decision in the coming years to limit the climate crisis as well. But right now, this is a position that only a small fraction of the population of wealthier countries can make. When you decide on an absurd policy, you must knock down the alternatives, however sensible they may be. And so, Seaspiracy attacks several of the NGOs in the ocean conservation, including the Plastic Pollution Coalition and Ocean.
Well, I think there should be more of an issue, especially because this is published on Netflix, which is a famous platform for watching TV shows and movies and documentaries, and it is used by diverse age groups, which includes the children and teenagers who might think like we should not eat fish to save the world after watching this movie, and not only them but also adults could think the same. And I'm not sure of the film's original intention, like the message they wanted to deliver to the audience, but because now the outcome is forcing the audience to be vegetarian, somehow. I think this is a serious problem. Like this could cause offense to both non-vegetarian and vegetarian audiences, as the non-vegetarian could misunderstood the vegetarianism, and the vegetarian audience could think they are not respected in a way. And this will not be able to have the outcome of the people working together to make a better environment. Yeah. Well, do you think this movie should be banned from Netflix?
Personally, I don't think that it should be banned from Netflix because it is informative and does provide real images and evidence of the damage that the fishing industry does. However, I believe that it would be best to include some sort of warning to the audience beforehand to make sure that the audience is clear and aware that some of the facts and the information might not be 100% accurate and slightly exaggerated, or just might be over exaggerating the situation to a complete different degree of what it is. Also, well, another solution could be that they could try to remake it. However, I do know that that solution does require a lot of money to have to redo it, and as well as time.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're done.
So this is it, and I
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed our session of News Bust and have learned more about what is going on around the world and have changed your views on certain aspects.
Yeah, and stay safe, guys.